So again, when we have a slow zone, when we have a safety car, it slightly rolls the dice. It gives an opportunity for some to benefit and others to not. Green flag conditions then. We go back to race conditions across the start and finishing line and into the first corner. Meanwhile, a full service at IDEX Sport.
Richard Bradley aboard the car. LMP2 winner in 2015 here with KCMG. And races not just modern LMP2 cars, but some fabulous historic cars, including his family-owned, I think it's 1928 Aston Martin Ulster. I think that's the right year. And races that with some spirit.
So this is a replay of the recovery of the car guys Ferrari. They've found the tarmac and they drop it back down on its wheels. They try and give it as straight as possible to allow him to drive straight on. And that's what they do. Unclip him. And Takeshi Kimura can either carry on or bring the car back to the pits to give it a clean before he carries on.
And a reminder in the background there, now neatly floodlit, the Peugeot line, a new brand of Peugeot Sport, with the reconfirmation and some more detail of Peugeot's project to come back with a Le Mans hypercar in 2022 for the FIWC. Lots more to come on that project, but they are partnering with Total with a hybridized hypercar to the new regulations which will debut next year. And further news on that, we had the first public sight of the concept road car version of that car, which brought the trophy to the grid today. And furthermore, 2 Toyotas, 2 Glickenhaus, and now 1 by Collis now confirmed for next year, with Peugeot to follow the following season.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask for. So for next season, there's Toyota,
yes,
and Glickenhaus.
2.
So 2021, and for 2022, Peugeot is added to that. So there'll be 3 manufacturers in that category in 2022, 2 manufacturers in 2021.
Yes, but in addition to that, we've also got to add in a grandfathered Signatec Alpine entered Rebellion.
And what about Aston Martin? What happened to them? They initially they announced something, didn't they?
They did, but they pulled that one, I'm afraid.
Not according to others on other channels.
That would be incorrect.
Incorrect. Incorrect answer.
It would also be incorrect, by the way, what other channels have been saying, that the Peugeot is a hydrogen fuel prototype. It isn't. It's a hypercar. It's petrol-engined with a non-spec hybrid system, and that comes because Total have a subsidiary company, Saft, who supply batteries, traction batteries, and they will be trying to show off their technology by going out and winning some very big races, they hope.
That's quite bright, isn't it, of a fuel manufacturer to get involved in battery technology?
Well, I think what it comes down to is it's no longer do we call these companies fuel manufacturers, they are now energy companies. And
Total's been very aggressively shifting into that sort of area for the last 3 or 4 years.
Also, by the way, technical partners for the ACO's H24 programme, and the new version of that car unveiled here this weekend. There's been a lot of news this week, and the vast majority of it very positive indeed.
And there, as we run through the overall classification, you see the yellow car in the background. That's a car guy car that is now back into the pits. As Kimura's at a driver change.
Just got to make sure that
Vincent Abril, sorry, apologies.
All the ducting is clean of gravel, and there's no bits of gravel stuck between brake discs and pads, and give it a nice clean as well as change driver.
Good guys, the car guy mob. We've been racing with them in Asia for the last couple of seasons. They won the championship last year, finished the runners-up this year. Took the opportunity, the very late opportunity, to come and brand this car with the MR Racing crew, deciding to stay at home. Ishikawa-san deciding to stay at home. His core business is, amongst other things, care homes in his home market of Japan. And right now, that's a marketplace that needs all the help it can get. So well done to you, sir, and good luck. But that did give an opportunity for the car guy team to take up that baton.
On the weather, by the way, a couple of tweets about the weather online and people using various different forecasts. There is rain within 60 kilometres of Le Mans now in all directions, but we have not seen a drop here.
We saw a little bit, tiny bit, just before we went into darkness. Okay. Not very much, but it was just a bit of drizzle.
But there's some pretty big thunderstorms around, and they're just around, literally around rather than on. So we're being very lucky here. There's actually heavy weather warnings down in the south of France for the amount of storms expected around Montpellier and places like that. So it really is, after weeks and weeks of very hot weather here, it's finally breaking.
On the back of the quick chat we had about the H24 prototype, Debedinfo, I think that's how I pronounce it, on Twitter, asking, will that car be competing? We have seen the original car tested in free practice sessions in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. The car is designed, it's based on an LP3. And we've seen the car in free practice sessions trying to get to GT3 pace. But we believe the revised version, 150 kilos lighter now, is likely to be featuring some race meetings next season, 2022, courtesy of Total's portable hydrogen fueling station. So look forward to that before we start to see new rules coming in for hydrogen fuel cars for this great race in 2024.
We're watching a little battle on track for 10th position in LMP2. Antoine Borger aboard the Cool Racing vehicle. The team partly owned by Nico Lapierre, which is being chased down by Nico Lapierre's old team in Signatec Alpine with Andre Negrau. Just 0.3 of a second in that 36 car, negotiating through a little bit of traffic around karting, and that, as I say, is 4th position, closest battle on track right now.
Andre Negrau, very quick, very experienced, Le Mans winner. Antonin Borger has been pretty impressive in this first season in LMP2 for Cool Racing. But is he a match for Andre Negrau? Well, we're about to find out.
Cool Racing, known as a Swiss team, but based just across the border in France, near my home, near Geneva. And Nicolas Lapierre, not far from that, has family all around the region. Was a real stout supporter and a really long-term member of Signatec.
Oh yes, very much so.
Even in his Formula 3 days.
Well, I think it's pretty clearly what Nico's done with this new effort, well-funded effort from Cool Racing. He's now got skin in the game. He's come in there as not just a driver and a driver coach, but clearly with a wider management part to this. And at some time later than that, once things are bedded in, the revelation was that he's now a shareholding partner in the team. And they clearly have got plans, long-term plans to move forward. Was that the high-class racing car we were looking at? I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah,
this is all a bit of highlights, I think. A little highlights clip. They are hoping to get that 33 car back out on the circuit. They haven't yet done so. But changing the gearbox, I think, was the last that's news.
Alan, you might be able to answer this one. Oh.
Yeah, just coming. Oh, that's Sam Bird we saw just there. Sorry to interrupt you, but okay. One thing I've actually just been looking at them. They're 3rd in category at the moment because we've got the Aston Martin of Martin that's up ahead. He's been sort of holding the gap to Daniel Serre at 14 seconds, but Bird has been closing in the last stint. He's been about a second a lap faster than everybody ahead of him. Remember, they got sort of knocked back with one of the safety cars when they pitted under a safety car, and the others were able to pit under a slow zone and gained an advantage. But that 51 car is getting itself right back at 71, sorry. Yes, 71 is getting itself right back in the game with Sam in the car.
Yep, Sam Bird back to AF Corsa, where he was a multi-season, full-season Ferrari factory driver. was kind of forced into, really, wasn't he, stepping back from that because of the clashes he had with commitments to Formula E.
Which didn't happen in the end.
No, indeed.
Which is tough, but this year's been a bit of a up and down, topsy-turvy one for everybody in that respect, and scheduling's an impossible task in 2020, as I think everybody will be able to understand.
Good to see that the provisional WEC calendar for next calendar year, for the moment, has no clashes. So for the multitude of drivers that do both series, they don't have to worry. They don't have that one thing to worry about, because there has been a few seasons where we've had clashes.
Yeah, it's a sad part of, I'm afraid, the way this year has had to go. It's certainly a shame that we've got the final rounds of some of the biggest championships on the planet in this area of sports all happening on the same weekend, with the Bahrain race moving to accommodate Formula One, now clashing with the final round of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the final round of GT World Challenge Europe on the same weekend. And
of World TCR.
Really?
Yeah.
Easy to pick out, I think, actually, that 71 car. I think is that the only one now with its rain light on?
The 71 car was, I think, the lead AF Corsa for a few moments, but a long, a couple of hours ago before it got scuppered by the safety car. But it was the faster of the two Ferraris. The Aston 97 has had to deal with both of them at some point.
Aston 97's just been in for a pit stop, and so Maxime Martin, after a double stint, two strong stints, has jumped out, and Harry Tinknell is now back at the wheel. If we remember, when Harry was at the wheel, he had both Ferraris fighting over him for two stints. I actually had a quick text message with him afterwards, and he said that were some of the hardest laps he's ever had to do around here. I said, you're going to have more of them, mate, so just get used to it.
It was a longer pit stop for the Aston Martin team. It was a 1:28 in the pit, so that's a full service stop. 1:12 for the 71 car. Yeah, remember, they had to take tyres because they would go on with a new driver. Yeah. And so that would be the reason for probably 4 tyres, actually, with that lap time.
Yeah, so those battles and those gaps that we saw quite close about an hour ago, Ross Gunn versus TF Sport versus Aston Martin, for instance, in GTM, has now stretched to 21 seconds there. So Ross has had a really strong stint and still continues to do so. Best second sector that car has been through. And we are still seeing good sectors coming through in the GT category. Matt Campbell aboard the 77 Dempsey Proton, still finding time.
Well, I think Matt Campbell is fighting not to lose a lap here.
Signatech versus Cool Racing, on board with Signatech. Cool Racing just ahead. Quick look to his right-hand side. Well, we're trying to clear some GT traffic, but so hard. Remember, all these cars are basically one spec. There is the odd differentiation to that, but the Alpine chassis is just a re-homologated Orica. So it is the same.
And it's something that attracts a lot of comment, sometimes critical comment from fan base, but someone who watches a lot of these races in some depth, they don't disappoint. They just don't. The pro-am nature of this race in LMP2 really feeds it. Really does mean, because it does mean that when you're setting up these cars, there is that compromise to make sure that you're getting the best out of your slower driver, and that does mean that you do see differences across the lap times and the stint times that will ebb and flow through a 4, 6, 24-hour race.
For instance, that is the Jumbo Team Netherlands car, third of that group.
Yep.
A couple of laps back, but with Nick de Vries aboard, probably faster than these two ahead of him. And therefore, despite being, what, 10, nearly 8 positions down, he might want to be clearing this lot.
He most certainly will do. He's going to want to try to put pressure on cars ahead, try to claw his way back up and grab back a lap or two that have been lost if he can in the next just under 14 hours to the end of the 2020 Le Mans 24 hours.
GT Porsche cleared by the three of them. And they head on to the S's and back onto the Mulsanne once more. To say that is the closest battle. That's a 9th position, Borger and Negrão.
Fastest lap of his race. That's good news after some bad news for Roman Rusinov. 3:29.986.
Yeah, a yellow flag down at the bottom of the circuit at Mulsanne. Find out if there's a car stationary down there. It may well be that there's just... Oh, there is a car that's stationary down at Mulsanne. That's not a Mulsanne.
Yeah, that's on the exit of Mulsanne on the right-hand side.
Is that a high-class car?
Yes, it is, 33.
Oh, so
it's on its outlap. It's on its outlap after how long? That's Anders Fjordbach after an hour in the pits. Crawling away again. This doesn't look good for high class, does it? The question I was about to ask you, Al, before we went back to a conversation about GTE Pro, was about this car. Is the rule that says you can't replace the gear casing still in place? It was the gear internals.
I do not know, but I will endeavour to find out.
That was just a report from Eduardo Freitas that the 33 car is picking up the pace again, so a Control-Alt-Delete reset for that car and back underway. Whatever they did to the G-Drive car, we never got full information as to what happened to that car other than electrical issue, but it seems to have worked, and their reset, that car's running back up to pace.
Yeah. Just coming back to your question there, Graham. Article 12.3.8 says, during the race, on pain of a disqualification of the car, it is prohibited to change the engine or any of its components, i.e. the cylinder heads, the cylinder head gaskets, the oil pan, the engine block components that are fixed to one another by means of seals, the main gearbox and differential housing, the chassis or the monocoque structure.
So only gearbox internals and the gear shift can be changed?
Yes.
Right.
You can change the diff, but you can't change the diff housing.
There you go. That was the reason I was asking, is because clearly we were told they were changing the gearbox. That can't include the gearbox casing.
Nick de Vries still not managed to clear these two LMP2 cars, as they've got another couple of GT cars traffic-wise, and they are very, very close this time as they go past those two GTE AM cars, I think. Lights are flashing, and Signatech still not quite able to find a space. It did look like they were going to run side by side for a bit, and look how Nick de Vries has now been dropped because of catching those cars just in the wrong place. Still says that that high-class car is not running and is stuck down at Mulsanne, but we did see it pull away, but maybe only briefly. Negrão having a little sniff into the first of the Ford chicanes, but there is no space there. Again, kind of a bit of a non-move, really. Just limited his ability to get through that corner as fast as possible.
Fjordbach, I think, has made it back to the pits. I believe the 33 car is back in the pits.
Yeah, so an ancient notice on our timing screens that has not yet cleared, but the 33 back into pit lane, having had all those bits changed, something not quite right. And back of the carriage.
It was actually a 63-minute pit stop prior to its outlap, so it's been basically an hour in the pits. And now back in again.
Back on board with the Signatech. Andre Negrão still trying to find a way past Antoine Borger in the Cool Racing. He's closer than ever, though, this time. Lots of GT cars to try and find a way through. Lots of flashing going on from Andre Negrão, and he pulls up right under the gearbox of Cool Racing. But again, coming into the braking zone, especially having to pass all those GT cars, there is no space for him. Not yet, anyway. Good traction, though, from Borger, leaving chicane 1. And, of course, Negrão will be checking his mirrors because he knows that Nick de Vries is around and about behind him as well. Starting to draw very, very slowly. That's not going to be enough to make a move into chicane 2. He needs to really nail the exit here So that gives them a chance into Mulsanne. And again, one make series, marginal gains each lap, and I reckon there's 2 car widths between them, 2 car lengths between them, but nowhere near enough to throw it down the inside. Pit stop investigation for Rino Mastronardi at our links. The 75 car last time was in, maybe did something wrong.
So Antonin Borger has proved to be a tough nut to crack, hasn't he, for Andre Negrão, and Nick de Vries now with them.
Yeah, and de Vries, I was expecting to kind of catch and pass these guys and check out, but such is the pace that they're running, he's not found it easy to find a way through. What pace? 3:35 was the last lap time, but they did have quite a bit of traffic to contend with around the Porsche curves. This has been a much easier and cleaner lap, so this should be a faster lap for them. But actually, in terms of their pace versus the guys at the front, well, the 2 United cars are doing last lap 32.1 for Job van Uiteren and 33.4 for Phil Hansen. See what these guys are able to do as they come towards the line this time by, because it has been a pretty clear lap.
Yeah, I've got to say they're not actually, their average lap times are not anywhere near the United cars over the stints. And that includes de Vries. As you said, we would have expected by the performance that they had all the way through up until the race. Okay, they've had technical problems which has put them right out of it, but their speed was never really too much in question, but they've not been able to sort of transfer it at this point of the race.
There you go, last lap 35.0 for those two. Actually, Nick de Vries did a 34.0, so he was a little further back at the start of the lap and has now got back onto the tail of the Signatech and Cool Racing car. 3 LMP2 cars running together on track. A reminder, Nick de Vries, though, is 2 laps back from this battle. Aston Martin into pit lane. That 98 is our second place AM. Leading AM, I think, actually, when it all shakes out.
Yeah, Ross Gunn brought the car in. Also on pit lane is the number 56 Team Project 1 car, running 3rd in GTM.
Did they do a driver change in that Aston Martin?
Yes, Augusto Farfus is aboard the car.
Because they had, Ross Gunn did a triple stint there. If he was going out again, then it was going to be a long evening.
He's a young lad.
Back on board, looking to try and box him in. He's managed to do it. Nice move from Andre Negrão. Has he completed? Yes, he has. Used the traffic to his advantage there to finally make the pass stick.
And where is Nick de Vries in all of this?
Looking to his right just to make sure he's cleared that GT car. Is Borger coming back at him as well?
No, he's going to be able to move across and defend that position.
Oh, de Vries moves past Borger. Yeah.
So Borger has ceded, well, 1 position and let another car by. And now de Vries is left to try and deal with the 36 car to continue his recovery drive. Not for position, remember, laps down.
Oh, I like passes like that when you can see Negrão, he wasn't anywhere near alongside Borger, but he put the car in a place where Borger thought he might be a little bit and didn't dare pull out of the slipstream and basically had to come out the throttle. Clear track ahead of the Signatech Alpine now.
Oh, that's a beautiful sight when you come out of Arnage. You can't see a car ahead of you. You know Porsche curves, karting in Ford, are going to be clear. And you know then that you can actually deliver a good lap time. That's it's something that you don't get very often at Le Mans, but when you do, you've got to take advantage of it.
He'll have Nick de Vries all over his gearbox as well. Has the line changed into this right-handed now that the wall's been moved back? It does seem like the racing line's slightly different there.
Yes, because you can now, well, the wall's been moved back, but it's also tarmac in the entry where it used to be grass. And where they're cutting on the right-hand side as they come through, well, there's two things. One, they can take more liberties on the left because there's runoff area on the right. But the second thing is that used to be grass. And if you touch that with your right front, then you were in the wall. And now the wall's not there and the grass is not there, so yes, the line has slightly changed. Also, the tarmac surface has changed, which has meant that there's wider width of grip through there. It used to be very narrow and it was very close to the curb. Now you can actually come a little bit wider and back in again. There you see the battle for the lead in GTE Pro. The lights going across second place, Harry Tincknell in the Aston Martin, chasing Daniel Serra in the Ferrari. I think 3 hours ago we were talking a very similar thing. Yeah,
4 seconds is the gap right now, 4.5 seconds.
15 seconds different in the pit stop with the 4-tyre change for Harry.
Yeah, so that is the ebb and flow, isn't it, that we've been seeing over the last couple of hours. That's the advantage that we saw Sarah have last time, but now doesn't have.
You know, 2016, it was a titanic battle between Ford and Ferrari. This is a titanic battle, but this time it's between Aston Martin and Ferrari.
Let's head down to Alex, who's got news on G-Drive. We've been questioning exactly what the issue was with Roman Rusinov a couple of laps ago, or a couple of hours ago now. Alex, they've told you finally.
Yes, Mikel did. A throttle sensor issue. Seems to be running okay now. They're not actually 100%. They're obviously a lot more positive than they were earlier.
Roman Rusinov's last lap, a 3:42. Quite a way off the pace of the leading car, but presumably a throttle sensor, pretty easy thing to switch in and out of with the speed that the pit stop was at 6 minutes.
It seemed to be, didn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe they just hit it with a hammer.
Yeah, that's not usually very good for sensors.
Never mind.
Have to be a little hammer. Not Lily hammer, little hammer.
No. Getting into the depths of the night now. Sleepy, sleepy. Some of these guys have been working very, very hard. Doesn't matter the fact that this has been a compressed weekend. In some ways, it's made it tougher.
Definitely.
And particularly if you've had a car that's had problems, in some cases, multiple problems.
It does feel frenetic. I never think that Le Mans feels too frenetic with its kind of week long, but this has been mental.
I'm not a massive fan of waiting till Wednesday evening for track action, and I'm not quite sure which way round I prefer. It was, I mean, Thursday was bonkers.
Yeah. And didn't give the teams or anybody any wriggle room to kind of make mistakes, you know. 3 free practice sessions and a qualifying session in one day. They hardly were off the track.
And the pits for the number 34 car. This is the least delayed of the Ligiers. 3 cars started the race, 1 is out, the Euro International car, the first retirement. But the Inter-Europol car, Polish flagged, multinational crew.
Seen it skip across the gravel a couple of times.
Yeah, you know, it's just entertainment. Yeah.
That gap's coming down between Tincknell and Serra, very, very slightly, but it's half a second, 6/10 every lap that Tincknell's eaten into the Ferrari's lead. And so now it's down to 3.6 seconds. It was 5.5 a couple of laps ago. Or a lap and a half ago.
Have been corrected, and correctly so, by Miggins Motorsports on Twitter. Percussive adjustment, not hit with hammer. It's the engineering term.
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I'm going to steal that.
A what adjustment, sorry?
Percussive. I want to see that in the Audi style book by the time it's next season, Alan.
Yeah. I think we might leave that with you, if that's okay. If you don't mind.
Precision, yes. What about Vorsprung Dirk hit it?
Having a look at the 88 car, Thomas Prenning back aboard that car. He spent about 3 hours out at turn 1 fixing the car that was, well, kind of pushed into the wall. It wasn't his fault, but he managed to get the car back round to pit lane. They then spent a couple of hours fixing whatever issue it was. It was retired and then wasn't retired and then was again, and finally they got it back out. Don Bastian, the oldest man in the field, had a chance to drive it. Had a little off, and they've had a few other issues, but good to see them running once more. We've got a yellow at Marshall Point 16, second chicane.
Yeah.
We haven't yet seen
89.
what it's for.
It is
Team
the
Project
89.
1 car.
There's Andreas Laskaratos, the Greek driver.
Down in 17th in GT Am and dropping. I haven't had a chance to see exactly where he's ended up.
There he is.
G-point. He's in the gravel.
Yeah.
Is he?
It's
He's close to the barrier because you can see the light flashing against the Marshall and the tyre barrier. He's reversed into the gravel in the mid-corner, I think. So that's going to be a slow zone or something to drag him out, I would presume.
Yeah, slow zone will begin at the first chicane, and they'll have a slow zone all the way down until this point where he is in the second chicane, and then go green afterwards. So that'll be a long old slow zone. And as you say, I think he's very far to the left-hand side if you're looking down the track.
I think he's came into the corner and then spun as he's actually got into the corner and reversed towards the barrier.
Here's a question for the collective in this this booth at the moment, and for you out there on Twitter. Andreas Laskaratos, Greek, backed by the Greek Tourist Board, by the way. Come and visit Greece.
Loving him.
Absolutely. Since World War II, how many Greek drivers have competed here at Le Mans, and who was the last? I'll leave that one with you.
The only one I can think of is Kostas Los.
And you're completely correct.
Times. Is that the total answer to both of them?
No.
Okay. Andreas Laskaratos.
That's.
And Kostas Los. That's 2.
That's 2.
Am I halfway there?
Yes.
Am I 3/4 of the way there?
No.
2/3 of the way there. I'm 2/3 of the way there, aren't I?
You're halfway there.
Oh, okay.
Living on a prayer.
A little bit of damage to the Porsche on the front.
It does look like that's a towing strop, isn't it?
Yeah.
Towing cable.
Is that a towing strap or a towing strop?
Strop. Or have you got the strop if you're actually being towed? I'm not quite sure.
Isn't a strop for sharpening a blade on?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Stropping? Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a bit before my time, Martin, but, you know.
And me.
Yeah, well, you still haven't started shaving, Ben, clearly.
Still, I know.
Not since lockdown, judging by the half-inch of stubble on your chin. Here are our class leaders at 1 a.m. Toyota Gazoo Racing number 7 leads in LMP1. Joop van Uyten for United Autosport leads in LMP2. From the pit lane in GT Pro, it's Daniel Serra leading for AF Corse and the 51 Ferrari in GTE Am on page 1 of the timing screen. Augusto Farfus in the 98 AMR Aston Martin leads that category, and Ben heads off for a well-deserved, what's his 20-minute break, I think, probably, before he's back on air again. It'll feel like it at any rate. Just on my way back from having a little lie down in the caravan and listening to Radio Le Mans because I couldn't go to sleep, so I'd had too much coffee. I passed a gentleman in dressing gown and slippers. Now, whether he was going to the showers after his shift or in preparation for starting his shift, I don't know. But I hope there was some warm water. No, it wasn't Peter Dunbrack. Peter, if you're listening, and you won't be because you should be asleep, unlike Jamie Campbell-Walter, who should also be asleep but is awake, we need the bounties out of the fridge. We are running low on chocolate men, and we still have 13.5 hours of Le Mans to go. And actually, a point worth noting, Alan, that getting to midnight is always one of those little milestones. Getting to darkness, getting to the first pit stop, getting to the start, which some of the teams were doing very well to do.
Getting to the checkered flag?
Getting to daylight is another one. Of course, normally that's sort of 4 a.m.-ish. Here it'll be more like 7 a.m.-ish, so that will be a much more substantial tranche of the race.
And challenge.
Yeah, absolutely so. And by the time we get to daylight, we've done 2/3 of Le Mans. We still don't have nearly 12 hours to go, which is often the case.
United Autosports pit stops in full flow at the moment. Willowen has been in and out in the number 32 car.
Phil Hansen, likewise, he's staying in, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. So Philip Hansen stays in. United Autosports having a very strong run at the moment. Sweeping in is the pale blue number 17 IDEC Sport car. And I don't think we've really kind of highlighted how well these two cars are doing. Richard Bradley in the 28 car in the pits at the moment. That car is battling for 10th place in LMP2, having started last and a lap behind the entire field. And Jonathan Kennard in the 17 car, they are battling for 12th place. Again, having started last and a lap behind the entire field, including the Dragon Speed car of Juan Pablo Montoya that he's battling. So those two IDEC Sport cars, they may have had a rotten time on Thursday and Friday, but they're having a much better Saturday and Sunday so far.
And talking about someone with I would say a better Saturday and smiling, you said Juan Pablo Montoya. I met him after his first stints in the car, and he was like a kid at Christmas. It was really cool to see, considering what Juan Pablo's done in his career, to come here in a P2 car and to be honest, he wasn't fighting at the front. They're struggling a little bit, or they've had some problems, but to deliver and to be coming out just absolutely energised was really, really good to see.
You think he's up for a shot at this one, Alan?
I think he's up for a shot at anything that's got a steering wheel and hopefully 4 tyres in it. And if it gives you the chance of doing something there, then he'll go for it.
That was a Porsche coming back on track. Do we think that was the Team Project One car of Andros Laskaratos, or was that 2 other cars stumbling over each other at the second chicane?
Let's hope there's only one Porsche in trouble. It certainly didn't look that there was much damage to the Team Project One car, so I'd hope it would be Andres.
Unfortunately, that was the second chicane, and the slow zone is at the first chicane. That's where the Team Project One car was.
No, the Team Project One was at the second chicane. The slow zone started at the first and finished after. But that's an interesting one with that slow zone, because that has actually split the Ferrari and the Aston Martin, because the Ferrari got ahead of a car going into the slow zone and the Aston didn't, and in the 10 seconds it lost in that slow zone alone.
And we're back to green flag racing. So it looks as if you were quite correct. That was Laskaratos going back onto the track.
Could have been, except he was exiting the second chicane sort of on the dirt on the driver's left. So I don't know. Maybe.
That's where he was. But he went off there at the second chicane on the driver's left.
So he's on the barrier on the right, up
yes,
to
but that's on the driver's
side.
Left when you come out.
Oh, okay. But no, the car.
Yeah, but you're looking at it the wrong way.
Exiting the chicane on driver's left off the track.
Yes.
But he was on the driver's right.
He's on that.
He was on the driver's right, because you could see his rear lights lighting up the marshal.
No, he was on the left, guaranteed.
Okay.
I can answer my own question on the Greeks, because we've had a very...
more Greek.
More Greek stuff. Why not? First, 1972, Fernand T. Seropoulos in a Porsche 911, the number 45 car, as a DNF. The last is a slight cheat in that this is a gentleman who raced under 2 flags. Chris Niarchos in 2006 and 2007, racing under both Canadian and Greek flags.
Well, that's a good one.
For a Scottish team.
For a Scottish team. There's got to be a downside somewhere in the story. But Scuderia Cost, of course.
Did he have Tzatziki with his Tunnocks?
Deep fried souvlaki.
Yeah. And obviously with, I'm trying to think what's the Canadian thing they have with lots of cheese on. That's just that's delicious.
Cheese on toast with maple syrup.
No,
Gentlemen, I'm getting hungry, so if we could please stop.
Chocky Wocky Doodah on its way to Alan McNish. I'm on my 3rd cup of tea of the shift, and I've only been on air for 10 minutes. So on board with Juan Pablo Montoya in the 21 Dragon Speed car, and this car hovering around the top 10. Graham Goodwin, I wish you to compile in the next 10 minutes a list of LMP2 cars that have not, I say not, had some sort of electronic issue in this race. It's not a very long list, is it?
It's not a very long list. I don't think we've had problems for either of the United cars, have we, on that front? They had problems where they were a little bit off the ultimate pace at the start of the race, but they've been very consistent and now are quicker than most.
I think they didn't quite have their head around the tyre pressures, didn't they? I think that was
might
part
well be
of
it.
the issue.
Jota had a puncture, I want to say, the 38 car.
And a problem because the 37 was in the pits. Remember, it stopped and was in the pits for a long time as well.
37 for the JCDC car.
That was a horror story.
Panis racing car, I think, has been pretty solid. I don't think they've had a major problem. So 24 by Graf led this race, but must therefore have had a problem to be back where they are.
I think they fell off.
That's always a good thing.
He drives 26 car, Roman Rusinov currently in 6th position. That had a, I don't appear to have any port power down the hill.
Throttle sensor, we were told on that one, didn't we? Weren't we? The Richard Mille Racing team actually have had a solid error-free run.
Not mentioning that.
Talking about Rusinov, he's got Renger van der Zande closing in behind him at the moment. And that's the battle for 6th position.
Indeed.
Renger van der Zande in the Dragon Speed car, the other sister car to Juan Pablo Montoya. As Hugues de Schonack sits in the corner at the Rebellion garage.
Rebellion get the kids to do their social media. Toyota Gazoo Racing car number 7, the race leader, has just left the pits. Kamui Kobayashi remains at the wheel. 167 laps completed in 10 hours and 41 minutes so far. It's 10 past, just after 10 past at 1 in the morning here, Central European summertime. Whoa! And the Rebellion decides, I'll go right, left here. The speed clocking up well over 300 kilometers an hour.
You're going to have to get the, can't quite remember what you called your pen, the squeaky pen of ultimate disappointment.
Sharpie of disappointment?
Yes, and I'm afraid it's going to go the way of the 33 car. That has been struck an oot on the Ptarmigan scoring sheets.
It's left the building.
Yes, but...
I'm not surprised.
Yes, but the Dempsey Proton car, they did that to it before.
But I bet you that if we went down in pit lane and spoke to Alex right now, the shutters will be down at the 33.
Well, actually, that's not a bad idea. Hopefully, Alex is doing an awful lot of work for the WC app. Lots and lots of interviews. If you want to hear about the demise of the 55 Spirit of Race Ferrari, Duncan Cameron gives chapter and verse of his feelings on the issues over about a 5-minute.
Oh, did he?
Breath-free.
I'm going to have to get that app.
I think you definitely are. It is free on the app. You will also be able to hear us on the app if you are hearing us elsewhere. There's your leader in the GTE Pro class. At least it's what it says on the side of the car.
It's Daniel Serra, if that's the case.
No, that's
AM
AM.
class.
It's Gusto Farfus.
It is Augusto Farfus.
In the Aston Martin there, behind the Ferrari.
Manu Collard in 2nd place now. The top 3, by the way, in GT-AM, separated by 6.5 seconds right now.
The AM class leader, by the way, is ahead of the very much delayed 92 Pro Class Porsche and just 2 laps or 1 teeny incident behind the 91 Pro Class Porsche. That started on the class pole. Morgan there looked like she was ready to do some percussive adjustments. That seems to be a big hammer in her hand. The hammer of Morgan. That's not Morgan Tizon, is it?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Morgan Tizon is the LMEM representative who's responsible for Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Oh, no, my apologies. That Morgan. No,
Morgan.
That didn't look like Morgan. Or our Morgan, as we should be referring to her.
Negrão has got Borger right behind him.
Yes,
he was braking into Mulsanne and he was defending a little bit. We could only see it from the onboard, and I thought he was maybe sort of offline and locking up, but it wasn't. It was purely just to make sure that Antonio Borger didn't have a sniff down the inside.
He was giving it a big long look in the mirrors there, wasn't he?
Question, Alan. Has Nick de Vries done a full stint?
Hold on.
Nick is in the pit lane now. And I swear, wasn't it Nick?
Yeah, 10 laps, 10 laps.
Wasn't Nick behind this pair of cars not that long ago?
Yep.
So he's pulled out the gap.
That's not Antonin Borger behind the Senior Tech car.
No,
That's
no,
the 35 Eurasia car, isn't it?
Antonin is the second car in that train. Now, has he dropped back off this pair? Or,
Toyota's just overtaken.
Yeah.
Or has he pulled away from this pair by that distance?
Well, Nick, his last 10-lap stint was an average of 32.9, 3 minutes 32.9.
So the last time we saw those as a trio, Nick de Vries has pulled the distance between the start of the Porsche curves and pitting. That's what he's done.
Yeah, for sure, because he's definitely pulled about 12 seconds on these in the last stint alone.
Because, if you recall, he was struggling to get by those two not that long ago.
Yes, correct.
Meanwhile, in a very Cyril manner, I'm indebted to Sam Pearce, who retweets Dragon Speed's message saying, unfortunate car number 21 has suffered from a misfire all race long. Hashtag sitting suck. I think that was probably sitting duck. Juan Pablo Montoya and Timothy Beret have tried their best to keep the pace. We'll keep trying to cure it, running out of options. I think perhaps some percussive adjustment might be required there. If you hit it with a hammer and that doesn't fix it, it really is broken.
I think so, yeah. You can know one or the other.
And Puccine, that is the concoction that the Canadians love more than anything else. French fries, cheese curds and gravy.
Yeah,
and yes, it tastes exactly as you would expect. Now, the lifting straps going into the roof of the Project One car.
But that's an FIA official, that's a WEC official doing it.
Is that because it didn't, it's not lift. Holding, it wouldn't lift. Yeah, that won't work. You've got to fix that. You've got to get that fixed, son.
That's exactly right. We tried to lift it, we couldn't.
Yeah.
That delayed. And he's checking the other side as well.
And that one's not working neither. Right, who's got the lump hammer?
You do like a hammer.
Percussive adjustment instrument.
I'm a classic car owner. It's your main item of adjustment.
Other than hope.
Yes. If you can't fix it with a hammer, the only option is a credit card.
Oh, dear
here we
me.
go. They're going to lubricate the living daylights out of this from inside and outside. And this is as frustrating for the team as the, light door panels that won't stay lit from the inside and all of that. And, of course, they're desperately trying not to lose any more time, but possibly more haste, less speed. I tend to find when I bash things, like a screwdriver into things like that, they don't get much better in a hurry.
Really?
But then I'm not a professional. 54 Ferrari in the pits. This is our 14th place in the AM class, and the man with the highest top speed in the AM category registered so far, and Giancarlo Fisichella brought himself to the attention of the stewards in his first stint in the car at the beginning of the race. Yep. That didn't waste any time. No messing around with Giancarlo.
Get that done.
On board with the Senior Tech Alpine Elf car now. Closing in on Bikeska Visser, Andre Negrau. This is the Richard Mille Racing Team battle for 8th place.
And this is a Signatech on Signatech battle.
And this is how far back up the order the Senior Tech car has come after problems in the first, 10 minutes, 30 minutes of the race?
The second lap, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, he's going for it down the inside. He's got the overlap. Is Bikeska going into the pit lane?
No.
She wasn't, no. Okay. However, again, for that number 50 car, the Richard Mille Racing Team, we have barely mentioned them other to say than they are creeping up the order, and they have not had any major dramas, and that is their key here. Don't hit stuff, stay out of the pits.
Stay out of the pits. Yeah. That's it.
Don't hit the curbs, don't hit other vehicles, just go round and round and round, because there will be lots who don't. What are we seeing here in GT AM?
His 77 car.
Dempsey Proton car.
Oh, straight on and just clear of the gravel.
Yep.
That would be, is that still Matt Campbell? It's Matt Campbell. Black flag for car 37.
Car 37.
37 gets the black flag.
That's the Jackie Chan DC Racing car. Their race is over. Whoa.
Now, what's that about?
Well, remember it was being investigated for stopping on the circuit. And he was out of the car. And if he goes further than 10 meters from the car, automatically he is out of the race.
Does that still...
That still stands. So
because
therefore...
that was reintroduced then after Guy Smith was not excluded for leaving the Bentley.
We don't know, but that was when it was being investigated, and he was definitely out the car. He was unplugged from the car.
Yeah.
And
well, there were two parts to that. I'm not sure when you were in the booth, Alan, for this one. There was the first investigation was about external help in restarting the car. That came back as no further action.
Yep.
And then there was a further investigation announced. Then I've got a third part to this, which is the bell housing.
Yes.
Yep.
So that will be an interesting one to see. But black flag for the 37 car. You don't often see that.
No, absolutely not. And that is absolutely no questions. Out of the race, pack up, go home.
I can remember 2 occasions when drivers were excluded from the race, but...
So can Stuart Hall.
Yep.
Well, one anyway. Yeah, but I mean, it is extraordinarily rare. Extraordinarily rare. And you can only imagine that if they had to fit a new bell housing at Jota Sport, they believe that was entirely legal.
Oh, yes.
If that is the question.
Yeah,
if that is the question.
I read the regulations in 2 minutes, and it's clear it's not.
I wonder if it's that.
So I think there, you wouldn't believe it's entirely legal when in the regulations it states it's not.
Yes. Well, let's hear from the G-Drive team, who are currently running in 5th position with Roman Rusanov at the wheel.
Pace is good, Roman. Pace is good. We are now P6. Prepilier is 4th position.
It looks like to me the 71 AF Corsa car of Sam Bird could have stopped. And there on the left-hand side from Mulsanne coming down to Arnage. That is the 71, that's 3rd in GTE Pro, stopped on track.
I think you're right, that's what the cameras have picked up as well. Good work again in the ACO TV truck. That is Birdie going very slowly.
He came round the corner, sorry to interrupt you there, he came round the corner and there's a puff of smoke. Did he have a puncture?
Yes, looks like he's down on the right rear. Or is that just the camber of the road?
No, I think he's down in the right rear. I think it's a puncture there for that car.
Oh.
So that brings the GTE Pro battle. It was 8, it was 3, it's down to 2 now.
Are they expecting 51 in this lap, or are they expecting 71 in this lap? Who was that suited and booted? Was that Davide Rigon, or was that Alessandro Pierguidi? I don't recognise
51 had done 8 laps with Daniel Serra at the wheel. Sam Bird had done 10. They can do 14, so this is actually just in preparation for Daniel Serra to come. That's 71, sorry, wrong graphic there, for Sam Bird to come back.
Yeah. So they've already got Davide Rigon then ready to take over.
Yeah, he should have been in and around anyway, because he's got to stay in and around the pits. As we see here, the car already going slowly and creeping to the inside, and all the smoke coming from the back of it.
Yep.
Might be more than just tyre, but...
Well, he's already lost 3rd place to the 95 Aston Martin.
This is the AM car coming down the pit lane.
And one of the
Iron
3
Lynx.
Iron Lynx cars.
Yeah, next up would be Olivier Plat in the number 82 Risi Competizione car.
Rino Mastronardi stays in. Iron Lynx regulars in European Le Mans Series racing. Rino part of their lineup.
Late addition to the grid for the Le Mans 24 Hours. Withdrawal of the Kessel Racing car saw that car elevated into the entry.
And in fact, their close rival, the 89 car, Team Project One, Julien Piguet, just leaving the pits. That's the next car back in the AM class, although it is 3 cars behind Mastronardi.
Yeah, and Piguet himself, a man that was initially named in the 99 car, then shifted over to the 3rd Team Project One car. We had a bit of a driver reshuffle in the days before we travelled to come here.
Jackie Chan DC Racing, the competitor is disqualified. The car stopped on track, the driver exited the car and phone called his team. A member of the team met the driver and supplied a component which the driver fitted to the car. The car was unable to continue. During the hearing, the team representative admitted to these facts. He also stated the car would not have been able to continue without the fix. The penalty in the regulations is disqualification.
And that's one of the other Ferraris getting stuck behind it coming into the pit lane.
It's
that's
the 83 car.
Yeah, and so he's stuck behind it. He can overtake here because officially this is not the pit lane.
But that is going to hold it. It has held him up, and that's going to make a difference because he has... Johnny Adam was just breathing down his neck before he came into the pits. I think that's going to make a big difference in this GTM battle. It's cost him a second or 3.
Well, just to come back, if a driver is unable to move his car from a dangerous position by himself, the marshal will assist. The driver must not benefit from the assistance to restart the engine. Penalty at the steward's discretion. Disqualification of the competitor is possible.
Well, the key there is supplying an item, or indeed a tool. You may receive no physical outside assistance. They can talk you through till they're blue in the face, but they can't hand you anything over the fence.
It's been remarkable of the history of this race, how many times people have found 5 litres of fuel 9.5 metres away from the car, though.
Bit of a spanner, tool
multi-tool.
But those are in the days before full and comprehensive camera coverage, and of course circuit cameras as well. So the Ferrari goes back in, that was in 3rd place, an oil or fuel leak, whatever that is, on the apron as well. They will need to attend to that. It has ground through something that you didn't want ground through. Well, apart from the splitter as well, obviously. Well, a real drama for the AF Corsa team.
That was odd. There was dragging at the front as well.
Yeah. Well, down at the front because the ride height was dropped with the right rear puncture, but also...
Sure, it's something in the right front as well.
Yeah, I wonder if the suspension has collapsed. They're taking the discs off. They're having a look inside. And that disc, despite the fact that Sam was going slowly, will still have the residual heat equivalent to when you take your Sunday roast out of the oven.
Sorry, did they take a disc off?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Taking the whole disc and caliper unit off. They're now disassembling. And that's the lower suspension arm there working on.
A damper as well.
Yeah, whole damper unit is there.
So there's problems at both ends of this car.
So you assume that the front damper going probably led him meandering across gravel and stuff, and the side of the road here, as we've said a number of times before, is not a round gravel trap kind of gravel. See a TV crew in the background waiting to have a quick chat, I'm assuming, not with Davide Rigon or Sam Bird.
So it may well be that the rear puncture is effect rather than cause.
Yes, I would suggest that's likely. And now they're going to go for a full factory service. This will be about 2,000 euros. There's Sam Bird in the background, about 2,000 euros worth of factory service going on. And that's not parts, that's just labour. So this will be a chance to give it a brake change and everything else. And then they will give it hell to try and get it back in 13 hours into a podium position.